she DTF.
She tell me she
DTF. I heard she DTF. What? And you ain't hanging with the team if you ain't down to fuck. Okay. Well, little mama bag got that code and that's right in my hand on the ass.
Hey. Is your back feeling better from last time when you were like...
When I was popping it, I was proud of myself. Saw a little pop. Yeah, you know, I'm out here. I'm feeling good. Thanks to a little serendipity. That's what I'll call it.
Okay. All right. And cheers. Salute. Boing.
Salute. Jivalee. Hello. This is DTF at your house. Look around. Look around you. What's that? Your home. Huh? It better be. You better not just be outside of some municipal office begging to die for the 1%. Not while you're watching this. This is DTF, the Darryl and Timaree Fun Hour at your home.
Hi.
So much fun. Hey, she's Timaree. I'm Darryl.
Timaree, yeah. I have a PhD in human sexuality. I was about 2 months from paying off my loans, and now I'm just not going to.
I went to school for a long time for engineering, and then I decided to throw that all away for comedy, and here we are. This is what we do. We bring the latest and greatest in sexuality, education, and relationship stuff. I think I screwed all those words up, but you know, it's essentially juggling. You put sex, relationships, and education in a pot, and no matter which comes out first, that's what we do.
Yeah, pot.
Yep. Yep, that's what it sounded like I did.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got a few good stories for you. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? What you feeling?
I'll go first. I think you went first last week. So, what I want to talk to you about is, since everyone's stuck at home, and there is a whole stay-at-home order, but video games are trying to call it a play-at-home thing. Right? If you have a PlayStation, you can go online and get some games for free. Anybody can. Because that's what they're doing. You can get like the Uncharted collection for nothing. Hopefully by the time this comes out, that's still true. But there's a game called Crusader Kings, and the third one is coming out this year, maybe. A lot of games have been pushed back thanks to, some bungling by the people who we put in office. But the nice thing about Crusader 3 and the reason Crusader Kings 3 and the reason why we are bringing it up is because they have taken a brand new approach, or they have built on the approach that they had in Crusader Kings 2 to allow for a lot of different sexual preference and sexuality variances. So the game is a strategy game. Timaree, I know you're a video game aficionado, but let me explain it for the people. You know what I mean? This is all old hat to Timaree, but it's a strategy game. So you play, it starts in like medieval times, and you play a king ruler. And essentially it goes from, I can't remember, it's like it goes from the Viking Age to the fall of Byzantium. And you're able to follow a dynasty, right? You create your ruler, and then they, mate with people in order to create a legacy and a chain, and then they take over kingdoms and form alliances and that whole thing. Some people think that that's fun. And as these games have gone on, there are a bunch of games like the Civilization and Crusader Kings and all that stuff. So what they have, you get to essentially, it's almost like a history simulator where you can change little things and then see what would happen as the years go on. And what they have added in here is the ability to set up, they've added a lot of things, but one of the things is the ability to have your ruler be bisexual or asexual. They've also added in, what's the other thing? They've, so in chapter 2, in the second game, you could just be heterosexual and homosexual, but they've added bisexual and asexual characters. And they have treated sexual preference and sexual behavior independently.
Ooh.
So, right? So like you can set up a bunch of rules. So like there are religions in there, and there's all kinds of stuff. And they've also added the fact that you can be a queen now. I guess, which is kind of funny. They had women in there, but they could never rule. So now
Okay.
you can start a matriarchy whenever you want, and you can set up different things. So like you can. This article from PCGamer.com says like if you're part of a faith with strict rules about same-sex relationships, for instance, being gay isn't illegal even if the sexual act is. So you can tweak the game rules and change all faiths' views on the subject. So you can make same-sex relationships accepted in different countries or provinces or whatever, and then hit the simulation and see what happens when you have an asexual king who's also whatever.
I have so many feelings and thoughts, and I actually got this article from you earlier today and was reading it, so I was like, I had so many thoughts. The first of which is, yes, as everyone knows, I am a video game aficionado in that I have for many times played Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. I'm proficient at Top Spin and Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, which
Don't you have it for the Switch?
Yes,
No.
yes, I have it for the Switch. And it's the greatest game that was ever made because it's basically just Pong except for with sexy ladies, and you buy them swimsuits and they get smaller when they get more expensive, and you make money so you can get smaller swimsuits. So that's why it's very good.
And Dead or Alive is known for its jiggle technology.
Yeah, so like Dead or Alive originally was a fighting game, and then they were working on this jiggle technology, and so Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball was created specifically as a way to show off this. So yes, I am very proficient at video games. If you count Top Spin and that and like Jackbox games. If you count that. So yes, this spoke very much to my soul. And then it's really funny because it's like you can now, like, so people complain about stuff being too PC, right? Like, so they're making the games like too friendly for women who are only half the market. And, and then they also talk about like the weird stuff. So like Witcher as a game, I understand, is like super white, even though they're trying to say it's like historically accurate, even though people have magic powers.
Yeah, well, I mean, because people, right, historically accurate in a game where you can fight fucking griffins, but also even back then, whenever they say the game took place, black people existed. I don't know what to tell you. No matter what y'all do or how y'all try to rewrite it, black people have been around. Some say before y'all, and other people say not before us. But one thing's for certain: we were there. And we were there all the time. And you can do what you want. I just don't want you to do it with my tax dollars. But that's a completely different argument. But yeah, black people have been around. And hopefully they're around in Crusader Kings 3. I have no idea. These are not my kinds of games.
But it's funny to me because like the fact that these options are being added in is going to be perceived by a lot of people as being very like...
as shoehorning.
Yeah, like very modern day politics, when the reality is that our idea of sexual orientation is based on like fairly new ideas. The idea of being heterosexually oriented is like a new, like we've talked about this a few times, like the idea of heterosexual was invented in the 19th century. And most of history... That's
very recent.
Yeah, in the scope of things. And
that's actually after any of what's happening in this game.
Yeah, so like actually in that time period, all of sexuality would have been really centered around one's social roles and amount of like power that you have culturally, right? So like if you have a ton of cultural power, you sleep with basically whoever you want to, in addition to who you have to sleep with because of your obligations, because you got to have kids or whatever. And then if you're poor, you sleep with maybe who you want to, maybe who you have to, that kind of stuff. And it has way less to do with gender than it does to do with like how much capital you have.
Yes.
Surf.
People were using sex to do all kinds of things. People were using sex to barter. People were using sex to join kingdoms as far as like we now have a child that has all of our blood in it, so we should stop fighting. Also like my wife is married, so I'm going to give this island that already has people to my wife and their some other family sons, so they can now rule it, even though the people who live there have no idea that they're even alive. So yeah, people use sex all the time, and that's the thing. Yeah, gay people have been around for forever. Non-binary people have been around for forever. Black people have been around for forever. I don't know what like. If you look outside, all of that has been around, like except for the buildings.
Yeah.
People have been fucking in all of the different ways. I mean, sure, there may not have been.
The labels were different.
The labels were different, and they didn't have dragon dildos, right? They didn't have like.
I mean, actually, like there's some pretty legit ancient sex toys, and they don't tend to survive thousands of years.
That's what I'm talking about. Wear that bitch down to a nub, son.
Right? But like there have been really ancient dildos that were found, but the ones that are going to survive
passed down from generation to generation. Yes.
My mother used this and her mother used this. No, but like
you can put it in the dishwasher. You are now a woman.
But the ones that like are going to survive are going to be the ones like made out of stone, right? Like those
right.
Not necessarily, they may be popular, but you know, there are materials that would probably be a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, like a stone one. It's like, woo, you needed like extra. I don't know what you put on that to lube it up. Like it ain't no spit handling no stone. I mean, you could polish the marble, but Hauser.
Yeah, you gotta be warmed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof.
But yeah, sex toys been around. We humans have wanted to get off since. I mean, always. That's why we're here.
Yeah. If I'm pulling these facts out of my ass, but I swear to God, I've seen them on random things. But like people were using like it's like alligator dung as condoms or cervical caps, like way back in the day. Like all kinds of things have been used for contraception and to aid in sexual gratification or fulfillment or whatever.
Yeah, crocodile dung was used as a very early IUD. Yeah.
But then things got shitty.
Yeah.
Not the best. But you know, I imagine everything stank back then.
Oh my God, yes. Can you imagine? Like, okay, so people talk about that like hypothetical, you could travel to whatever time, and it's like, yeah, but I'm a girl. You know? I don't want to travel to other times, so why would I want that?
Yeah, it's a very funny thing. What time would you travel to is a very funny question, because it's like, I don't have that much to go back. I don't have that many times. Like you could pick wherever. It's like, you know that stops at the 70s, right? Like, and I probably would really enjoy the 70s. It was super pro-black, and there was a lot of tight pants and big fros. So yeah, I'd probably enjoyed the 70s. But I love their music. But yeah, anytime before that, you know, I have to be cognizant of my surroundings at all times. And you know what's funny? I still do. But yeah.
And aside from that, also like people don't realize how recent like dental care is industry, and like bathing and like clean water. The idea that you can like go and your house has it. Like your house has running water. Like how new this is. And because I am very cool, I was listening to a podcast about the history of toilet paper.
When she was done playing video games.
Yes, sure. And yeah, like toilet paper only became even really an option after people got indoor plumbing. Because at that point you just had like the Sears Roebuck. It came to you for free. And then you just, you know, outhouses or whatever. But it was like indoor plumbing is when we started being like, oh, we're going to be fancy, luxurious people, and not like ruin our septic line. So, but yeah, I wouldn't want to go to any time before flush toilets. I wouldn't go to any time before like fluoride toothpaste.
Yeah, or fluoridated water.
Yeah, like the people are gonna be gross, and I'm just gonna feel gross the whole time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like I mean, early 19th century or late 18th century, we stopped using leeches, even though to like in medicine, even though like we've started again. Um,
We're using leeches again? Is that
yeah, people are starting to use leeches to you get a particular kind that will eat like necrotizing tissue.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I have read about that. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, maggots and leeches.
Maggots. Yeah,
Yeah,
maggots are dope. Like maggot related science is really interesting.
it's very interesting.
Because they can go into spaces that like humans can't
Right.
and clean out tissue. But the problem is like there's like this very, very like particular keeping track of them because at some point otherwise your hospital will end up filled with like flies.
No.
And that becomes an issue. So you have to have like a person on staff whose entire job is like keeping the maggots at a certain age and then killing them.
And then killing them off, yeah.
Keeping track of them and stuff. Otherwise, yeah, it's like chaos. So
and you have to make sure you have the right type. I think this is the right type or the right age, or you have to have the right type at the right age to keep them from eating alive flesh. Like that, it has to be maggots that will only eat. Look, we've diverted a lot. Here's the thing.
This is like when we talked about fucking poop transplants last week.
It's true. It's true. But look, I applaud any game that tries to add in some of the history that has just not been taught to a lot of dumb people who thought that this stuff was just for them. Also, to go back to, I don't even know, did you say it? Video games, video games were always developed without gender in mind. The Nintendo was a toy that was supposed to, and that was the one that really blew up the home video game market. But they wanted to market it as a toy for everyone. The problem was that Toys R Us knew that they could sell twice as much stuff if they split it up by boys and girls. So when Nintendo was like, we want to sell the toy, Toys R Us was like, well, is it for boys or for girls? And then Nintendo was like, the fuck are you talking about? It's a toy. It's a game. You can put multiple games in there. The games, as long as you like games, you can play it. And they're like, yeah, boys or girls. And they're like, both? Neither? The fuck do you mean? And they were like, we're not going to sell this in our stores unless you tell us if it's for girls or for boys. And so they picked boys. And that is why fucking dickheads are mad today when girls are in video games. Or they decide to say like, oh, because female identified folks tend to play games on their phones, that those games are not real games. It's like, no, they're just, everyone has a phone and people like games. And so it is a gaming platform just as much as a PlayStation is. Get your head out of your ass, you fucking dickhead.
It's funny because it's like the idea of gendering toys in general, because how many of them are you using your genitals on them anyway?
Well, I mean, if you get left alone too long.
Because I had like a little vibrating golf ball thing. I don't remember what the point of the toy was, but it was this big. It was like about this big. And it was like a golf ball, and maybe it was like a cat toy. I don't really remember what the point was, but you could switch it and it would like spin around. But it vibrated, right? And I remember, I don't know why I had this toy, but I remember playing with it and I had the door closed and my mom came in. She's like, what's happening in here? And I was like, she's like, okay, carry on.
It was a, speaking of toys, there was a Harry Potter Quidditch broom that was on sale.
Oh yeah.
And it vibrated.
Yeah.
And so kids would play Harry Potter with a vibrating fake broom that they would like run around with.
Yeah.
And there were more than a couple kids who would start running and then stop running and then never turn the toy off. And then they'd probably hide unless their parents were good people who taught them that there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's just things that you do in private and things that you do in public. In which case they would say, I'm going to go play Quidditch in my room. Not an outdoor sport. I'm going to play it in my room. And it's like, all right, cool.
On that note, I'm actually going to transition to our next story.
Sweet.
That's a good segue. So this has to do with a couple. This is a fun story that was in the Sun in the UK. It was in the New York Post, etc. But this is a married couple in Texas. They have been together. They've been married for 20 years, and they're in their mid and late 40s. And they were in a poly relationship, probably a triad with another person. I perceived it as being another woman for whatever reason. And when they were all together, the wife said that she always felt like she was the outsider on the triad. They ended up ending that relationship. And so to fill the space in their hearts and other parts, they bought a $7,000 AI sex doll, who is now their third in their relationship. And I watched a little video of them like taking care of her, and then she was just like sitting on the couch with like her towel on her head and like wearing a robe and just sitting by the TV, and then getting carried to bed, and how they take care of her skin and stuff. And they say that it saved their marriage. They're stronger than they ever have been.
Yep.
And they love her. And to say that she is a sex toy would be to say, this is a quote from the husband, that would be to say that a computer is a calculator. So it's just too small of a version of what she is. So just
a computer is a calculator. It could just do a lot of calculation.
Yeah, So
he's saying it's a sex toy that could do a lot of sex.
He's just saying that. There's just so many facets to her, right? Well, I mean, she is AI, so
she has AI, can carry on a conversation. Apparently, has a Scottish accent, I believe.
Yes.
He's fell in love with the Scottish. And what was great, I also read this article, folks. We don't even tell each other what we're picking.
It's true. We're just like on the same wavelength anymore. Yeah.
But
sent this to me.
I don't. Did I?
I don't know. Who remembers?
Right. If I could totally see myself. I think I saw you post it, because if I would have saw it, I definitely would have sent it to you. And then when you posted it, I definitely was going to read it, because I love these stories. I really, really do. I'm always happy when there is a couple or a person who is just like, look, this set of circumstances happened in my life, and now I'm happy because I have something that y'all don't think I should be happy about. Yeah. I'm always like, man, fuck yeah, man. Hell yeah. The cutest picture in the world was when the lady in the couple was laying down and she had her hair all ready for bed, and then the computer was laying down next to her, and it had its wig off. And I was like, look at them just hanging out at home. Like, it was like bald laying down in bed. I was like, that's a relationship right there.
Yeah.
Get your hair off.
So their names are Shelly, Darius, and then I believe Camilla is the name of their third. So yeah, I mean, I had no complaints about this, and I've always had a mixture of reactions to sex doll stories, because on one hand, it's like, why would I possibly have a problem with it? Why would I care? Like, how would it impact me? How would it be bad in any way? On the other hand, the way that it is sometimes packaged is by kind of misogynistic incel types who, in their description of why they like it, have to talk a lot of shit about human people.
Yeah.
Doing so.
And their interactions with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. And in that case, they tend to just reiterate this idea that women exist to be pleasing to you, and that men don't have to be attractive to women, and they don't have to like do anything to be nice or desirable or to encourage someone to fall for them. They should just have that. So I always feel a little bit like, okay, just go.
It can always get a little weird.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah, there's no absolutes.
Yeah.
They could all be douchebags. Because I mean, the question is like, what happened with that third? Well, it was the woman in the relationship that was upset with the third. So it couldn't, right? It could have not been the third that was like, you guys are weird, I'm out.
Yeah. So yeah, that was another thing that I thought about is like, there is you know, there are plenty of people in lots of different arrangements that are poly. There's no one way to poly. You can poly as many different ways as there are people.
That's why it's called poly.
Yeah, like true.
Multiple sides. It just means multiple sides. It just means multiple. Yeah.
So like
many.
There's a tendency for a lot of people to get into poly and non-monogamy from a very specific lane, and that is a straight guy who is in a long-term relationship with a bisexual or bi-curious woman, and then they end up looking for another bisexual woman. And that,
two chicks at the same time.
Yeah, so it's a very, very common fantasy. It's a very, very common way for people to enter non-monogamy, and there's nothing wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong with people who want to do that, and there's nothing wrong with people who want to be the third. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But very few people are given the opportunity to learn about how to do it respectfully and how to go about this type of dating in a way that treats that third person as a person. And
Right.
so some folks are great at it and they approach it from like a healthy standpoint. Other folks dangle the hot woman, and then it's just the dude who actually runs their Tinder account. And it's usually very likely that scenario. And there are a number of unicorns who are the bisexual women who could come in as the third, and sometimes they're having a great time and boundaries are set and everybody has exactly the experience that they want. Other times that third person can get treated very much as an object. I've known many unicorns who got broken up with by being ghosted by both partners when the two of them decided that non-monogamy wasn't for them. Like, it's just, you know, shitty dating behavior multiplied by a factor of 2.
Yeah.
So,
you know, this would be the perfect point if we were doing a live show for our We're Here to Help section. We would just start listing different ways that ethical non-monogamy can happen, and maybe some different touch points, some things to think about if one is trying to get transition from a monogamous relationship to a poly one. I'll just give a quick thing. Poly is about schedules. All of the things you think is fun for doing poly or whatever, you just have to remember you have to balance multiple calendars. And that is a great example in my head, because that just shows how much flexibility you need, pun intended, and like how compassionate you have to be to multiple people, that to allow for people to back out when they don't think it's okay, for people to revoke consent, for people to have long and very boring conversations about what will happen that's going to be the thing that you're looking for. Now, those conversations can be very fun, but very platonic conversations about boundaries and about what you want to happen. And, you know, making sure you're on point with everyone. And like, you know, I'm married to one person, and I tell you, boy, some days that's tough. So I can only imagine throwing in another one, or a third, or fourth, or you know, or if I got one and if she got one, and then the ones that we got don't like each other, and then the one that I got has another one that doesn't know about the other ones, and then, you know, it can become a dodecahedron of just bad shit very quickly. Probably not that quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you know, it takes a lot of compassion, it takes a lot of work. There are many people who have written books on it. There are many people who give classes on it. There are many people who, if you are not a jerk, there's one. If you're not a jerk, there are many people who you could probably just talk to at things like Munches, which are typically poly events that have no sex. It's just a way for people to meet. It's like a mixer.
Specifically kink oriented. So
specifically kink.
Yeah, Munches are for folks who are interested in getting into kink, and the overlap between kink and poly is pretty significant. It is not a full circle, but there's a lot of overlap.
That Venn diagram is big.
Yeah, so I would also just add, because, you know, like, that it's a pretty common question of like, how do we find a third? And the answer is, how did you find the first one? You know, like, how do you find anybody? I remember back in the day, I used to be an employee at a lesbian bar, R.I.P. Sisters. And there was a problem with the fact that like it wasn't exclusively like a space for women. Anybody could go there of any orientation, but there was not a lot of joy towards the unicorn hunting couples that would come into that space specifically for that purpose. It's one thing to be a person who's not a lesbian who comes into a lesbian bar and just supports this local business and becomes a part of the community. That's cool. It is totally fine to do that. But if the only time you come into this business is when you're trying to basically like swoop and usually send out the hot girl to like grab another girl and like pull her into a whole thing. And then once she's now emotionally invested in this, be like, oh, well, here's this guy. You know that guy that was just sitting there on the chair the whole time and you were wondering, he's looking at us? You want to bang him? And the answer is, no, I'm in a lesbian bar. Probably no, and I probably do not. But
that's not how any of this works.
So I would just say that like my necklace just came off. However you found the first one, try that again. Try to find a human with whom you have a connection. I can't emphasize enough how much people should just like be looking to their own like friend networks. I mean, right now is hard in general, right? So if I like anybody else.
Oh. Yeah, right now, do not.
Don't do it.
Don't at all. Like, if you do want to, only talk, use the internet. Like, have those conversations. You can, talk about what you'd like to do. Have a Zoom meeting, something like that. But, or Google Hangouts. You don't have to pay for an unlimited thing. House party. Yeah, have a house party. A house party orgy would be very hilarious.
Yeah.
I would love to walk in on one of those. Hey. All right, I'm gonna get in the shower. I'll be right back. Yeah. Those sorts of things you can do, but do not. You shouldn't be having sex with new people now.
Yeah. But
unless you can guarantee they haven't been anywhere for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I would also just say, like, you can have objections to this, but if you literally are just looking for just a sexual partner, I would say, go to swingers clubs, to, sex party events, to hire a sex worker, somebody who doesn't need to have like emotional stuff brought in here. So there's not a risk of hurting their person's feelings. You're just like, they know what they're there for and you know what they're there for, and everybody can just do that. And we don't have to pretend that it's something else. So you really identify what it is you want out of this. And I think a lot of people, are just like, these are the things that I've seen done. And so those are the things that I think are the options, but the options are only limited by your own creativity. So yeah, figuring out what you actually want.
Facts. Figure out what you want and then go get it. Unless it's within 6 feet of a person, in which case, wait.
Yeah. Today I also just have to say, there was a new 6 feet rule. So the 6 feet rule, obviously, like, you stay away from people. But also I discovered today that if you drop part of your burrito, my partner said that the 6 feet rule is if it falls within 6 feet of you, you can still eat it.
Sure. All right. That's
the new rule. So it's not about how long it's there, it's about how close it is to you when it falls to the ground.
Touche. It's not 5 seconds, it's 6 feet.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do we want to do one more story?
Do you want to?
I don't know.
Sure.
Or we can wrap it up. Well, I have a real quick one.
Okay.
We can do a real quick one. All right. So this is just a fun thing I found on the internet it's on timeglider.com. And it's just a brilliant timeline of slang terms for sexual things.
Ooh.
It was created from Green's Dictionary of Slang, and then somebody went to the trouble. Jonathan Green, his Twitter is @Mr. Slang. His website is jonathangreen.co.uk. And he just made this timeline that's just slang for penis and slang for vagina and for having sex. And you can trace back thousands of years. So this is very fun. So for an example, I just randomly picked in May of 1890, some of the terms for penis included copper stick, coney catcher, chink stopper.
Hey.
Oh, I hope that wasn't offensive.
Whoa.
Foreman.
A chink? Oh.
CHINK. So like, I don't know,
okay,
chink in the armor maybe?
Sure.
Father confessor.
Hey now.
Flapdoodle.
I think that's still used.
That's very good. Crack hunter.
Hey, yeah, because I like butts.
Jumble giblets. Jolly member. Gut stick.
Hey, now. All right. Been calling it that.
Gravy maker. Life preserver.
No, life ender, really.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Unless you're talking about like, wait, you're talking about a penis, right?
Yeah, these are all
Okay.
penis.
I guess it would float.
Shove straight. Quim wedge, which I'm guessing is based off of the quim being a vagina term at that time. Tent peg. Thing gummy. Old Hornington. There's a lot of options here. And then I could go back much further, so I can.
And that was just one group of friends.
That was just May of 1890. So this thing, let me see. I'm gonna make this smaller so I can scale across time way faster.
It didn't even have rap back then. Imagine.
So now I'm gonna take it to literally the year 1 CE or whatever we're gonna call this. And I don't understand how time works. Oh no, I've ruined it.
No, nobody does anymore.
Oh,
That's what happened.
No. Okay,
I imagine in 1 CE it was called and
Let's see if I can slide. So I'm gonna go back in time for some vagina terms for you.
We're gonna go back, way back in the time.
So I'm gonna go back to the 1780s to look for some terms for vagina, and we have customs house goods, Jack Nasty Face,
Hey, all right. If you could make it look like a rabbit.
Doodle Sack,
Okay. It's a sack for your doodle.
Turly Whirly,
All right.
Madge, Cock Alley, that's pretty self-explanatory, Miraculous Pitcher.
Hey. All right. Because if you can make the juice come out, you're really doing it.
Because it holds water with the mouth down. That's why there's an explanation there. A cauliflower. And it looks like Snatch originated from back then in the 1780s. Waste pipe, which I hate.
I mean, I think kids are garbage.
Yeah, so we got lots of fun options there. And if people are interested, again, that's Jonathan Green. His Twitter is Mr. Slang, and he's got this whole time glider where you can go back thousands of years and you can see things like Lucky Bag, like Dash Sponge. There's just a bunch of really good stuff like that. So I just thought that was a fun resource.
It's a great resource. Good. My historical screenplay is going to be punched up so well.
Yeah, so I have to imagine that this is like pulled from a variety of sources. I don't actually know like if these are all in people's journals or like fiction at the time. I have no idea. I'm not sure. So
yeah, I mean, I remember when we read Canterbury Tales in junior high, the teacher having to very gingerly explain some of the random words that were used to describe people having sex, and to a bunch of fucking 12-year-olds, and being like, well, you understand when he said he threw his belfry down the steps, nobody fell, right? It was she was bent over and then he ran into her. You get the belfry and the steps. All right, let's move on. This was comedy, you guys. This was comedy. Hey, wake up. Why don't you come right on the board? Oh, you can't get up, can you? All right. That was, typically how it went.
wait, was that a real one? Through his belfry down the steps? Oh, okay.
I have no idea. No.
What? I need that one explained to me. I need an adult.
No, I have no idea, but I do remember. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the poems in there were just dirty jokes, and but the language was
that
so.
One is big time.
Yeah. And so, the language was so messed up. I remember teacher just having to be like, nobody's laughing. Look, it's her titties, you guys. You're talking about her titties. God damn. And then you giggle, and they go, now shut up and keep reading.
Do you want to do one more, or are we closing out?
I'll do one more. I mean, we have a little bit of time. This shouldn't take too long. CNN reports that a 20-year-old Bangladeshi I love women's. Anyway, a 20-year-old Bangladeshi woman gave birth to twins 26 days after giving birth to her first child. How, you say? Turns out she had two uteruses. I was pregnant in both of them. One of them had twins. So she had a baby, then she complained of some lower abdominal pain, and then she went in and they were like, oh, you got twins. Turns out she has a condition called uterus didelphys, and she had never gotten an ultrasound before the delivery. So nobody looked, which we brought up on an old DTF that's not on the internet. Please, if you get pregnant, go see a doctor like once. Just, like once. This kind of thing could be found.
Yeah.
But yes, it's very rare. Apparently, as the uterus develops, it comes from two tubes, and those tubes fuse together to create a uterus. And sometimes, for some women, the fusion does not occur, and so you end up with two uteruses. Uteri.
Uteri.
You end up with two uteri. Uterine. Yeah, you end up with a duck pussy. And as such, she was pregnant in both of them.
Impressive.
Kind of bananas, yeah.
Yeah, that's a horror story that if I were a younger person, like who didn't have the capacity to go get an IUD, I would lose my shit because that's horrific.
Yeah. I mean, still horrific to go from no kids to 3.
That's entirely wild. Yeah, I mean, bodies are just wild in general, and the fact that like we fuse together, and then also the way that like reproductive organs have like the potentiality to go in either sex direction, is just like so wild, because like the idea that we think that there's like a normal for these stuff, when the reality is it's amazing that it is categorized simply enough that we've come up with 2. Like we're like, we call this, and there's just so much variation that can happen because they're complicated.
Yeah. If only we would have accurately been talking about this throughout history in schools, and people would learn the actual science behind how beings are formed from cells commingling.
Oh, but then then you'll want to do you'll want to have the blue vein in your sportsman hall.
Well, I imagine the people who came up with the blue vein, they were white. But that's just my guess. That's just my guess. Just my guess. Just my guess. I don't know. I just, from personal experience, no. I mean, you could see veins, but you can't tell what color they are. It don't work that way. For some. So, yeah.
Well, congrats to her and all of her children.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. 20 years old. 20 years old. You got 3 kids. Woo! It's a wrap. I mean, you're going to have a great time, and you as a mom can do whatever you wanted before you even got pregnant. The world is your oyster. The rules don't fucking matter. You're stuck in the house because of some people's other dumb shit. So you do whatever it is you want. But damn it, I don't want to be you.
So, on that note, it has been another week of DTF.
Yeah. Thank y'all so much for tuning in this long.
Yeah. This next month will be 7 flim-flamming years of DTF.
That's crazy. And as far as live shows are concerned, unheard of. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, it just doesn't do that.
That's longer than lifespan of a small dog, like, yeah. It's huge. That's a big deal.
Many big dogs. Many big dogs, actually. Yeah.
So, congrats to us. Thank you to you.
Yeah. Thank you to you.
Thank you. And also, while we're on the thank you to you, we just want to shout out the people who have been supporting us in this time.
Yeah.
If you enjoy this sort of thing, if this helps pull you out of your quarantine sadness by thinking about the fact that in the 1830s they called it the gimcrack.
You're learning things.
Or the
Look at these ribs. Look, there's ribs. Ow.
Oh.
Well, there was ribs in there.
Okay.
Darryl Charles at Venmo.
Yeah. So if you like what you see, or you don't, you want us to stop.
You can pay me to stop. Hey.
Pay me to stop. So yeah. Thank you everybody. Get Black Gentrifier on Bandcamp. Go get it.
Yeah. Thank you to the people who did that. People did that this week. So yeah, you all rule.
And then also, if you want to work out with me, sweatwithtimaree.com, where we have boot camps and Pilates classes Monday through Saturday, and you get to see more of this wall, but with me jumping around in front of it.
There you go.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
Woo!
Thank you. This is where you put like music or some shit, but you know.
And you ain't hanging with the team
Bye.
if you ain't down to
Bye.
fuck.